Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. Now Andy Ruiz has confirmed his comeback on April 24th and he has been in some training and removing some of the weight from his last fight. Obviously Andy Ruiz came in north of 20 stone, so he was probably too heavy for the AJ rematch, but now he has been focusing on getting his weight down but also building up some muscle mass as well. His trainer Eddie Reynoso said he's dropped around 20 pounds, but some of what he has gained has been muscle. So he has dropped weight, but he's also gained muscle, so it has kind of balanced out. Now obviously the thing with Andy Ruiz Jr. is that his feet were too slow to get him into distance to land his own punches. He's fast, he's powerful, and he has great punch variation, great combinations, great hooks as well, works brilliantly on the inside, but that doesn't work unless you can get on the inside, unless you can close that distance. And that is something that Andy Ruiz Jr. has been working on under the tutelage of Eddie Reynoso, speeding his feet up. Now, of course, there are limits to what you can do. Everyone has things they're good at, everyone has things they're not so good at, and you're never going to find someone in a boxing ring who is perfect, 100% perfect, that does everything 10 out of 10. Everyone has little weaknesses here and there. It's just about building upon the strengths and making the weaknesses less of a weakness, so building upon them and making themselves better. The way that Ruiz can do that is working on his positioning, also working on things like maybe getting his weight down a little bit. Not too much, because I believe that Ruiz benefits from being a little bit heavier, so he doesn't want to be going down too much in weight. I think that 20 pounds is probably a good amount of weight to lose, especially considering he's put some muscle back on. I mean, if you see that video where he's doing that circuit for his shoulders, he's doing raises and stuff like that, he looks incredible. His legs look like tree trunks. I mean, he's doing brilliantly to get back into shape. So Ruiz is doing all the right things, we just need to see how it translates when he gets back in the boxing ring on April 24th. I'm extremely excited to see Andy Ruiz Jr. back because I think that he's a great addition to the heavyweight division and he's a big problem for the other heavyweights out there. It will be great to see him back, and after his comeback on April 24th, maybe we can start talking about Andy Ruiz in some of these bigger fights with the likes of a Dillian White, Deontay Wilder, but first it does take a camp or two with a new trainer to optimize his weight and to work on certain things that the trainer and the fighter do want to work on. The important thing is the relationship between the two of them so that they know what they need to work on after each and every fight. Okay, this didn't work, that didn't work, so here's how we can improve. The trainer and the fighter will have their own opinions. As long as they can agree on them, then they can move forwards. That is why it is important to find that connection, to find that bond throughout maybe 1 or 2 training camps. So perhaps we won't see Andy Ruiz Jr. in a mega fight this year, but that will come next year. He is moving over to a new trainer and trying to find, as we said, that optimum weight, and that will come over the course of 1 or 2 training camps. It will be important the opponents he faces as well to ensure that he does find that balance, because his footwork hasn't necessarily been something that has taken him to places where he needs to go. Like, if he wants to get in range to land those faster shots, the counters as well, get on the inside, he needs to have faster feet. And those are things that Andy Ruiz Jr. will be working on during these training camps. I mean, if you've seen his training footage where he's doing those circuits, he's doing a lot of time under tension during his weight training sessions, which is brilliant for building lean muscle mass and burning body fat as well. That seems to be what he is doing if you see him doing that circuit with his shoulder workout. So that's great for building lean muscle because it puts his body under strain, so that he needs to recruit more muscle fibers in order for his body to be able to deal with that kind of tension, with that kind of pressure. Basically, that's what it is, forcing the body to adapt, because the body is an efficiency system. It will find the easiest way it can to survive. If the easiest way is to burn fat and build muscle, then it will do that. So you kind of have to coax your body to do that. And time under tension is brilliant for building lean muscle and also burning body fat, because his trainer did explain he's lost around 20 pounds. And these tough training sessions that he is putting himself through, because Eddie Reynoso said he's been working extremely hard, that will definitely benefit him going forwards as he looks to find his optimum weight, because that is also something that Ruiz needs to find. It is appropriate sometimes to go up or down in weight considering the opponent that is in front of the fighter, but often there is an optimum weight for each and every fighter. Anthony Joshua has found it, Tyson Fury has found that as well. I mean, Tyson Fury, big guy, broad shoulders, he's tall as well, 6'9", so he carries 19 stone well. So it's appropriate sometimes for him to go into the ring at 19 stone because he carries that weight. Whereas Anthony Joshua has found that if he's around 18 stone, perhaps at times he feels that fatigue and lactic acid kicking in around the mid-rounds, going late as well, and he has to kind of try and find that second wind. Whereas if he's around at 17 stone, that is optimum weight for Anthony Joshua. And he has discovered that over multiple training camps, because he was around 18 stone or just below for the Vladimir Klitschko fight. He was the same for the Takam fight. In fact, he was actually heavier. That might even be his career heaviest against Takam. But Anthony Joshua does find he doesn't necessarily have that dip and fatigue and lactic acid kicking in if he's at a lighter weight. So he has dropped back a little bit and he's not necessarily as heavy as he once was, around 17 stone. So he has found his optimum weight. That is something that also Andy Ruiz Jr. needs to do, to find a weight that works for him. Obviously, things that do change with regards to the opponent that's in front of them. Obviously, they must be able to adjust and adapt. So sometimes it might be appropriate to be a little bit heavier. Sometimes it might be appropriate to be a little bit lighter. I mean, AJ was around 17 stone 1, I believe, for the Pulev fight, 16 stone at 13 for the Andy Ruiz Jr. rematch, whereas in the first Ruiz fight, he was, 17.5 stone, maybe a little bit heavier, so he is finding that optimum weight. That is also something that Andy Ruiz Jr. will be working on, and that does take a camp or two to ensure that he gets that right weight. So guys, anyway, what are your thoughts on this? Andy Ruiz Jr. is looking brilliant during his training. He has been working extremely hard according to his trainer Eddie Reynoso, and you see in that video, his legs are like tree trunks, he's in great shape, he looks lean as well. I mean, he's never going to look like a bodybuilder or anything like that, but then again, he doesn't need to, he's a fighter, and we've seen what he can do around 19 or 20 stone. Let's see what he can do when he optimizes that weight going into a real big fight. That won't happen this year, I would imagine, because he needs a few training camps with his new trainer, but perhaps after April 24th, he can start stepping up, and maybe there is a Deontay Wilder fight on the horizon. That would be easier to make because obviously they are both on at PBC, so there is definitely a possibility for that fight. Dillian Whyte fights as well, down the line for Andy Ruiz Jr. He's an exciting addition to the heavyweight division, and it will be great to see him back in the ring. The heavyweight division is very exciting at the moment because we have Andy Ruiz Jr., we have a Dillian Whyte, we have a Deontay Wilder, we have Povetkin, we also have Usyk and Joe Joyce, and Daniel Dubois, who will be looking to get back to winning ways. So there are some great heavyweights, Hrgovic as well, Michael Hunter, those two look like they are going to fight. Alexander Povetkin versus Dillian Whyte 2, Joseph Parker versus Derek Chisora perhaps on May 1st. There are some great matchups coming in the heavyweight division. Undisputed will be the big one, hopefully in June. There are some mega fights coming around the corner, and some great heavyweights for some proper good matchups. Ruiz can definitely be a part of that mix, and he can be in fights with maybe Joseph Parker, like a rematch, maybe Derek Chisora down the line. That would be a great fight. Dillian Whyte, Deontay Wilder is a big fight that gets touted a lot for Andy Ruiz Jr. That is definitely a big possibility. My question is for you though, what is a fight you would like to see Andy Ruiz Jr. in? Is it perhaps a Deontay Wilder, a Dillian Whyte, or is it someone else entirely? That could be quite interesting. Guys, anyway, what are your thoughts on this? Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe if you are new. Thanks guys.